Folks. This is the Auto Trends Podcast. Your co-host Gideon Williams. It is a very special day. We've had a great weekend. We're rolling into yet another episode of Auto Trends Podcast. We have a jam-packed episode today. We have a special guest today. One of the great talents, young talents, I think, of our industry. I've been a huge proponent in our industry as today's managers are tomorrow's leaders, today's directors are tomorrow's vice presidents, et cetera, et cetera. We've got a special guest on today. We have so many hot topics that we're going to run through, but ultimately, as always, the Auto Trends Podcast is for you. We are the voice of the industry. Again, as always, like and subscribe is the best way to support this podcast and the body of work that we do. We are stewards of the industry, as many of our listeners are. So please, if you have any insights, we obviously welcome your initiatives. With that said, Lucas Welk, what is up, brother?
How are you, Gideon? An exciting episode there today. You can see on our screen, Mr. Joe is here with us. So very, very exciting episode. We're happy to have him aboard. We'll give him a little introduction here in a second. But how are things with you?
It's good. The wheel continues to roll down the street as always.
It does.
It's been a good week. I'm actually blown away. We're already moving almost into Q4. We're rolling into Q2, Q3. I think the industry is at really an exciting place, and I know we talk about it a lot between ICE, right? The internal combustion engine versus the hybrid versus the EV versus hydrogen. There's all these pieces that are moving. How does distribution make decisions around the evolution of where investments are going into automotive? Is the automakers? How are manufacturers viewing that? I think there's going to be winners. There's going to be losers, right? And so I think when we look at that, there's so many details that we could peel back. And ultimately, our job as stewards of the industry are to provide the most accurate, the best information out to ultimately the industry from maybe our view or even other experts' view. So I think it's exciting. And the fact that Joe, has graced us with his presence, we're honored for one, and it's really a special time. We've got some great, topics to hit on. Yang, right? I think that is, if you are young in the industry, get involved in Yang. Yang is absolutely tomorrow's executives, tomorrow's CEOs, tomorrow's vice presidents. That's where it happens with Yang. We also want to talk about Connect out at ACPN in Chicago here coming up. Joe's going to touch on some of that. But before we do it, I want to give a quick intro on Joe. Just really, as I said, an industry guy from start to finish. I think the more that I learn about his background and how he's even got into the position he is with Dorman, obviously a leading manufacturer, and I'll let him tell that story. But MBA, Yang Council member, Auto Care Association committee member, again, director of product, Dorman Products, and just an industry visionary and a leader. So, Joe, we welcome you to the Auto Trends Podcast. We appreciate you being here.
Welcome. Thanks, guys. Happy to be here for sure. Thanks for the warm welcome. A little overstated, but I'll take it. So I appreciate that. Definitely pumped, definitely excited to be here and just be able to connect with you guys and talk shop.
Yeah, for sure. Lucas, before we really kick things off, should we give Joe the very, very highest level of VIP welcome? Is that
absolutely? He's not expecting this, but you absolutely should. Absolutely, 100%.
Even the opening got me all fired up, right? So it's definitely excited. I took this very serious. I even did my hair for you guys to come out here today. So
exactly.
Well, the funny thing is we've got, Lucas and you guys are going to the same hairstylist. I am like one step from going to your guy. I'm like right there. So we're
under some serious stress. We're under some serious stress on a daily basis.
The key is to just embrace it. Just embrace it, right? I'm fortunate to have a fat round head, so it works for me. So.
My wife was telling me, you should try these hair products. I said, look, honey, I just don't give a shit. What happens, it happens. I don't care. If somebody's
Exactly.
going to judge me because of my hair, well, we have other problems. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
At least I
Yeah.
have the beard. I gotta have the beard, otherwise I'd be built like a thumb. So I'm fortunate to have the beard I have.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So, Joe, let's get things kicked off here, man. I think the ultimate goal here, as it always is talk shop. We want to just, I think everyone in our industry comes from different places, right? I typically come more from a technology, from the distributor piece, building out the e-commerce division, obviously involved in this and the tech side, but also we follow the developments. But from your end, I know you sit on the Yang Council with a lot of great leaders. I am a Yang member, which is awesome. Likewise, is Lucas. We're almost aged out. We're very close. But what do you guys have going on at Yang, man? Talk a little bit about that and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Yang, it's awesome, right? It's a movement, if you will, right? So for those that are not aware, right, it's Young Auto Care Network Group. And we really try to drive, three main principles, right? Obviously it's in our name, right? We want to network. We want to network with our peers. We want to network with mentors, get visibility out there, get learning, get development, right? Which leads us to the second big point is the developing the new skills and leadership capabilities. So we range right from fresh college graduates to the 40 and maxing out and aging out. Unfortunately, I'm closer to the other end of that, but it allows for that new skill set and development. We have, like I said, entry level individuals coming into the market, and we have senior vice presidents that are throughout the member pool, right? So it's a wide variety of different levels, different experience. So it's fantastic for us to all come together, network, build on those skills. And we also value involvement and engagement, right? And part of that's giving back as well. So if you're not engaged, you're not involved, it's, in my opinion, it's just a job to punch in and punch out of, which is okay for some, and for most people want to be involved. And I think this industry makes it so easy to get involved, right? I mean, the passion, the excitement that surrounds the automotive industry is, in my opinion, bar none. I mean, nobody else compares. So it's very important to do that. We have a lot going on. As you mentioned, Yang, the conference at Connect is our big one, right? That's the big event for us for the year. So we're getting closer. Take advantage of the discount, right? Yang members get $150 off. That ends coming up on the 30th, so this week. So definitely take advantage of that. Just a lot going on. We have a lot going on.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's great you say that, because when I first got in the industry, it was kind of a stroke of luck, right? I got into it. I was coming out of my MBA, got introduced to David Honig, the president of the Parts House, and he just opened up my whole world, man. Like, just he was the first guy that brought me to SEMA and Apex, right? And I just was like, whoa. And then what I found is the more that you engage the industry, it's such a helping place. Like, everybody wants people to succeed and working together, and things like Yang were created, but there's so many other involvement opportunities. And
Yep.
it's like, Lucas, you and I were talking about it. It's like once you're in, it's hard to get out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we
you
kind
don't,
of
you don't,
harp
you don't really
on.
want to get, you don't really want to get out, right? I mean, it's fun, right? It's entertaining, it's challenging. I mean, it's everything. And Yang, I think that's what that does. That's that initial door opening, so you get there. So like me, I grew up with, a car enthusiast, hobbyist father, right? So I was always around cars, tinkering with them, car shows, just the whole car culture. But it wasn't until I actually got into the big boy, corporate world of the automotive aftermarket when I said, wow, like I'm a car guy. I knew about this, working behind parts counters throughout high school and undergrad. But until I got into the industry officially, I was like, this is huge, right? This is a huge opportunity. Never thought I can make a career out of it and have this much fun doing it. So, that's really what we're trying to do, and segue into the getting in, and then really opening the horizon and opening many doors, for the members, for sure.
I think that's one of the unique things, not just in this industry, but in a few other industries. But you have a lot of different pathways you can go once you enter the industry as well. You might just start down a certain pathway, but you have opportunities through these networking groups. What your career path might be. You might have an interest in a certain area when you first get in, and that may diversify and say, actually, look, I'm really interested in this. You might start out in OEM and then go to aftermarket. You might You know what I mean? You've got these different opportunities, and it's through these connections, through Yang, through Connect, through these conferences, but people you meet, because these are kind of lasting impressions that you're making with people. These connections are ongoing, developing constantly, and that's unique. That's a positive thing.
Well, it's like I've met so many people that started out in the industry as a technician.
Yep.
Yes.
And they turned into a product manager, a vice president of distribution, right? Like, and that's, I think, I talk a lot to young. I partially, I love the young generation, right? I don't know. I don't know if it's part of me or what I do. I love taking young kids that, because I was a young kid at the point, and I'm very thankful for people that have helped me along the way. But it's awesome to just watch the progression of saying, okay, this is a starting point, and oh my gosh, you finished as the executive vice president for this particular piece, right? And that evolution has happened through, kind of to your point, look at different pathways. And I think that's what's so special about our industry,
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it. It's kind of latching on to that mentor, or having that person or people believe in you and really help drive that. And that's part of Yang too. I mean, we have a mentorship program where we connect mentees with mentors, and it's doing phenomenal. The team has done a great job at getting that where it's at. But yeah, so it's really opening up that network and that connections, and being able to spitball and hey, I have something I need to talk to. I don't necessarily know if I'm comfortable bringing this up to my direct leader yet, but I could spitball, not only with my peers within my company, but a trusted and reliable source outside through my network and my connections.
Talk to us about that, the Yang Mentorship Program. We had Tunch Kip, the CEO of Gamut, on, I don't know, a week or two ago.
Yes.
Which awesome hearing his story, man. He came from Turkey. His granddad got in the gasket business, and it turned him into OE contracts, and then now it's turned into Gamut. He's a Yang mentor and phenomenal guy. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think that is an awesome opportunity for so many people in our industry that maybe are out of that Yang kind of age group to come back and say, hey guys, I'm raising my hand here to give back. I've got a lot of value to bring.
Right. That's a great point. And, sometimes, those that have aged out joke around. It's like, oh, I'm not able to be in, what I mean? I'm not cool enough, they joke around. But the reality is there is opportunity to support in the form of mentorship. Right. So, above 40 or outside that group, they have the ability to sign up as mentors. And the Yang Council will then go ahead, see how many mentors we have, and we'll group the mentees. And we try to keep it small, so it's very intimate, right? With small groups to be able to have those conversations. And we'll set some parameters and formalities to get started. But from there, you could just go and kind of do your own schedule as far as whatever works for that mentee group and those mentors. And we've even seen previous mentoring sessions that those mentees have stayed in touch with those mentors, and those mentees themselves
100%.
have built the connections, right? So it's like, it's our group right here have it. And it's like, oh, I know Lucas, I know G now. And we continue to drive and embrace our relationship. So it's a win-win across the board. And that's a great point. You don't have to be under 40, to be involved and support Yang. And we appreciate those mentors that do that, right? And they kind of pay it forward. And I know they've had mentors, right? And they may have jumped on certain coattails. So we want to be able to do that and pay that forward and keep this going.
100%. And that's what we heard from Tunch. I mean, he was just, and he's so gracious with his time, and he's obviously a visionary and a phenomenal CEO. Can't say enough good things about him. But the fact, I always have a lot of respect for folks that look back and they begin to pull up the younger generation, because, man, they, in my career professionally, right, I would consider guys like David Honig, president, who's now actually just on his retirement here. He's been a great mentor to me, man. And just the fact, I remember I always would joke with him, I see, the only thing every time I was in a meeting with you about some things with other folks, I just wanted 5 more minutes, because there was something about that. I don't know. And it wasn't anything like particular. It was just, I just learned, and here I think it's our duty as the next generation of the industry, to carry the baton and hurl that next generation, right? Because we're going through a lot of different things, and this kind of can parlay into our next topic. But we look at the older combustion engine, we look technology packing into vehicles, we look the debate EV, right? We did an episode on California EV market losing market share in Q4, right? Not that booming growth, but is it the future? Is it not? You have combustion and you have a hydrogen, you have the hybrid model. So that we're in a weird state right now of evolution of what that transportation industry looks like and how are we going to power it. And I want to parlay into the Right to Repair Act because I think that is an unbelievably important piece of legislation right now that impacts you, impacts me, impacts Lucas, impacts the listeners, impacts our industry, impacts consumers across the nation, around the world. Walk us through a little bit of that, Joe, on the right to repair.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, like you said, this has got to be our priority, right? This is the single-handedly most important thing going on within our industry, and really, it kind of grinds my gears that we're even having this conversation. I mean, we as Americans should be, for lack of better terms, we should be pissed off, right? I mean, it doesn't come down to just the industry, but it also comes down to the Americans' right to choose, right? We're being questioned on the choice of where we could take our vehicles that we own to be serviced, right? So it's very important. It's very important. And I think we're doing a great job. I mean, AutoCare is pushing this out. I think I checked, it was like over 30,000 letters sent. It probably more, by the minute,
Sure.
but it's important, right? It's definitely important, looking through and understanding where things are, right? There's 36% more is spent at a dealer as opposed to an independent, right? So that's huge, right? There's an affordability aspect, there's accessibility, competition, supply chain. I mean, just to name a few. So without this really dampens the system, and this could cripple different areas, right? So right to repair is super important. I definitely try to advocate through action as much as possible. Took part in the legislative summit, and right up in the corner on the other side there, you've been gracious enough to post that there. So the right to repair, scan that QR code, repairact.com. I'm going to give a shameless plug here, right? So right now, AutoCare has done an awesome, very creative play onto March Madness when it comes to right to repair, if you haven't seen it already. So this helps everybody, right? Send more letters. It's going to help the industry. It's going to help the movement. However, there's also competition within the communities, right? So, Yang being one. And we each have our special, QR codes. All goes to the same place, but the, QR codes give credit to these communities. And look, I want to win, right? I'm a competitive guy, so I want to help everything out, but Yang's got to be number one. So I much appreciate if you guys hit that, QR code, go to repairact.com to be able to send those letters. It's unlimited. You could sit there and you can send as many as you want. But the most important thing is, the awareness and the visibility, right? I feel like those inside our industry obviously know about it, but outside of our industry, I don't think they know as much, right? And I feel like legislation right now is kind of has a little bit more of a strong arm because of the lack of visibility outside of our world. So it's up to us to be good stewards and really push that out there. Talk to friends, family, strangers. I coach, youth sports because I have two very active kids, and I talk to my teams about it, and they're like, huh? And I print out little QR codes, and I tell them, like, I teach them what it's about, and I say, you got to get your parents and your family to sign up, and you'll get a treat, after the next practice or game, and tell your friends in school, show them that, right? It's just awareness and making sure everybody's aware. And without vehicles and lines at the dealers, because there's no way they're going to be able to service and support everything that the independents do today, right? I mean, travel sports would be shut down, right? I mean, the minivans, the SUVs in the parking lot on the weekends, what are we going to do? So, I mean, it affects all of us to that level. So anybody that appreciates any type of vehicle, this is important.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is 70. I mean, I'm by the way, I'm on repairact.com, but I'm going to say this just for the sake of Yang folks and our listeners, scan the QR code. That QR code links back to Yang. Yang's going to get credit for that. So do that versus go to right to repairact.com. I mean, they're both fine because they're both action oriented, but scan the QR code. Here's an interesting statistics. And it's posted right here. 77% of vehicles are 7 years and older. Lucas, we just did a whole episode on length of the vehicle, the expanding, and then we also talked about right to repair. We talked about all these things that go on. 77% of vehicles are 7 years old. Okay, we have 36% of drivers are spending more at a dealership. We know that, right? That's why the dealership typically kind of has a negative connotation. Anything outside of warranty typically would go to maybe an aftermarket independent potentially. I don't know.
For sure.
Right. That's just reality. And as we evolve through this from a vehicle's perspective, The right to choose, the right to repair, to make your own decisions as a consumer is what's at stake here. Monopoly versus a non-monopoly, for lack of a better word. We want to make sure that we, as you know, and to your point, Joe, most people, majority of folks who just get in their car and drive wherever they got to go, don't have any clue about this. Like, they just don't, right? Because they're out of sight, out of mind. So it's important that we take action today. And so scan the QR code, support Yang, support the Auto Care Association, support the right to repair. It's for your goodness. So.
And also too, I forgot to mention, which is very important. So we talked about, going to right to repair, sending the letters, supporting this and really driving, the action, the advocacy. But with that QR code, scanning for the Yang credit, if you will, what's up for grabs is a $2,000 scholarship. For the community that has the most letters sent, they get that $2,000 in scholarship money to be able to award it. And, I may be biased, but quite frankly, I think, the Yang group probably needs it the most if you look
100%.
at the demographics, right? I mean, a lot of these entry-level individuals don't really have much say, don't really have a budget to maintain. So, every dollar counts to be able to get them to Leadership 2.0 or continuing education through Northwood. So, like I said, I'm sure all the other communities would say the same, that they want to give it away, and they do. But I think when you look at the demographics of these communities and what it's made up of, I really think Yang would benefit the most and could probably use it, more so than some of these other communities that are more established and have more, senior leaders and shot callers, if you will.
100%. Joe, just maybe, as we're talking about this right to repair act, just give a brief 30 little second, blurb, just what the right to repair act is and why people should do it. Just a very brief, just if people are watching that don't really have that understanding as we would.
Right. So, I mean, what that's going to be is right now, what they're trying to do, the OE manufacturers, is lock out these independents. So not sharing any of that diagnostic information. So if let's use your check engine light, right? That's the most feared, hated light of all on that dashboard. So
the devil, it's the devil, man. The devil,
exactly.
The demon is here. It's here.
I mean, that ruins your day, right? You turn that on, that ruins your day.
I just turned my car off and fucking walk.
Yeah, I mean, the next worst thing to a check engine light is traffic on 476, and if you know, right? So right to repair, that check engine light comes on. You typically go into that repair facility. They plug in, the scanner right to the OBD2 port, and they're able to read and help diagnose. So what they're trying to do is the OE manufacturers are saying that's our information, that's our data, that's ours. Right. So they're trying to lock that out. So it cripples the independents. Like, they plug in all they want, it's not going to read. So they can't even help in diagnosing and fixing the problem. And like I said, it really paralyzes the system. And on Auto Care, it's posted there, but over 70% of post-warranty repairs is taking place at these independents. Can you imagine the lines that are going to be at these dealerships? Now, where I'm located, I'm within 5, maybe 10 minutes of dealerships. But if in some of these other areas, you're 20, 25 miles from a grocery store, let alone a car dealership, right? So what does that do to time and safety for me, right? I mean, I'm thinking, you have that sports parent, right? They're driving, their van, their SUV, they're going to practice. That check engine light comes on. And they're like, well, I need this vehicle for the weekend. So you're now somewhat risking the safety. You don't know what that light's coming on for. And you're going, well, I can't be without my car and I can't wait. We got to get places. So now you're putting, in my opinion, the public at risk, because people don't know what that could be anything, right? It could be something, emissions related that's not going to impact the safety, but it could be a safety critical component that you're saying, I got to drive this for the next 2 weeks until they can get me in. So that's stuff that we have to think through. And I think that comes down to, layman's terms, if you will, non-industry people talk, where it's like, this is important. This is safety. This is accessibility. And at the end of the day, it's the dollars, right? I mean, the lack of competition, it's almost a price fixing aspect, right? Dare I say that? But yeah, it's so competition is good in that sense of wanting to win your business. And plus, not for nothing, but if I'm the dealer, I don't really have to win your business. You have to come to me. So therefore, it's what it's going to be. Forget about the wait lines. It's just going to be insane. And it's just you're not going to have that customer centric, warm and fuzzy feel. So at the end of the day, time and money is at play, safety is at play, you should have access to that. So I could go to my local shop, and I could have the technician that I've been going to for years that I trust, and I know they're going to take care of me and take care of the problem, and not just, treat me like a blank check to repair everything. So it's very important. It's very important.
Great.
Everybody, like I said, any vehicle owner, anybody that, has a child in sports, anybody that uses any type of service, fleet vehicles, right? They say, if you bought it, a truck brought it, right? So that's impacting our fleets too. And it's a supply chain aspect to that as well.
Absolutely. No, that's great, Joe. Thank you.
Well, I also think it goes back to, one thing that I love about the industry. We work for the working class, man. We work for the people of all races, religions, all creeds, right? Transportation is transportation. And when you look at sensitivity around, I don't know how much money somebody has in their pocket. They may be on their last stroke of luck. Who knows? But knowing the cost implications without right to repair versus with it are absolutely massive, right? I go to my technician, Joe. I go there. It's always like, we're buddies, man. It's awesome, sit down and chit chat, and he services my vehicle, and I get on my way. Every time I go into a dealership, it's never that, right? It's not that same feel. But again, neither of them are bad. They're both good. I just want that decision to be made by myself, not somebody else. So
that's exactly it, right?
So,
exactly. It's, it like I said, it comes down to take the industry piece out of it. It comes down to the freedom to choose. And again, that's our right? We need to fight for the right to be able to choose. And this is no exception.
Well, and I think too, when you look, and this kind of parlays into the difference between where we're at from a combustion engine versus hybrid, EV, hydrogen, et cetera. It's critically important as technology continues to evolve and technology continues to move us forward. Without diagnostic testing, it's not like the 70s and 80s and even the 90s where you could take a listen in the engine and be like, yeah, that's exactly what's going to, you know what I mean? Right. The old days, it's like, what's the old saying? I take my vehicle in, the guy fixes it in like 5 minutes and he charged me $200, and it's like, whoa. And it's the 35 years of experience that got me to know exactly what was wrong. Right. We're kind of moving in a direction where technology is being driven further. Cars are more computers, right? If you look at the newest, latest, certainly the luxury brands, your BMWs, your Mercedes, those newer vehicles are complete computers, man. And without that the ability to diagnose and test as an independent, you're being robbed of your future. So folks, it's very important, right to repair. Smash that QR code on there. It literally takes a couple of seconds. Do it 10 times if you feel and you're not doing anything. Maybe do it 20 if you're having a rough day and you're bored. Do it a lot.
Absolutely.
And but that kind of parlays into like, where do we think the power is going to come from? I think, you look at us three here sitting, right? We have 20, 30 years. I certainly have 20, 30 years ahead of me in my career. When we look at the energy that's basically being going to power our transportation, whether it's personal, professional, commercial, we've gone from the combustion engine. Now we're looking at hybrid. I think we've kind of skipped hybrid a little bit. We look at EV, we look at hydrogen, right? We have obviously certain benefits from a government's perspective, pushing certain things. You live in the manufacturing world. These are things you have to be well aware of. What do you think that evolution is from an energy perspective, and how we're moving vehicles from point A to point B, from combustion engine to hydrogen to what's your take on that? Like,
hey, listen, look, I'm welcoming for all, right? I do not discriminate on any type of alternative powertrain by any stretch, but I think the reality is the government push versus the reality of where we're at. EVs are not going to be 50% of the VIO yesterday or tomorrow, right? It's going to take some time. I do think there is the opportunity for EVs to pick up, hydrogen, possibly, and which is very interesting to me as well. But I think we have much more of a long runway, right? I mean, ICE has been here for over 100 years, not going anywhere. However, I do think in order to take it to the next level, to the EV and the hydrogen, infrastructure, right? I mean, availability, charging. Look, I can't. My commute to the office, as well as all the travel sports, I cannot live my life with battery level anxiety. I just can't. I can't live that way, right? So, I mean, we need to really look at that. The temperatures are affecting this. You see news articles, over this last like flash freeze, if you will. Batteries are dying all over the place. There's a backup for it seems like forever at some of these charging stations. Again, not against it by any stretch. And at Dorman, with being innovative and being the front runner on this, we're going to service this. If it has wheels and it moves, our goal is going to make sure to keep it move, and we want to be first to market to keep that move, right? So it's important, and I think the innovative aspect of that is fantastic, right? I mean, the minds are going, the brains are going, and it puts us in a better spot for the future. I just think there's a lot of aspects to getting to that point, right? To getting to that point right now, I mean, what is it? 284 million, VIO on the light duty segment, coming out of, I'm grabbing that from the fact book, S&P Global there. But, and if you look at the EV portion of that, that's slightly over 2 million. I mean, that's a long runway there. And I think there is, like I said, opportunity. It's just, we got to walk before we run. And I do think, I think hybrid, for whatever reason, it wasn't, as attractive or as sexy as EV, because I don't think that there was a big push and big marketing aspect to it. And I speak personal experience. Like, I was looking with the commute and the miles I was putting on, I, had an inline six ICE vehicle, and I'm saying, how do I get better gas mileage? I looked at EV, and I ended up with hybrid, right? I'm in and out of, the gas station under 2 minutes. I'm getting 500 miles to a tank. I mean, that fluctuates a little bit, but I do think there is that stepping stone and that betweener stage with hybrid vehicles. And I think we need to kind of, maybe utilize and leverage those a little bit more than we do. But I definitely think that the future is bright with alternative powertrains. It's just it's a bit of a longer runway than I think the government is pushing, or maybe the perception for those outside of our industry.
Excellent. No, I agree with you 100%. Who knows? Like you say, the runway to this, I think, has been, drastically overstated for sure. Everybody thought it was going to be adopted much quicker than what it has been. I don't think we'll ever see. I don't know what your thoughts are, Joe. I'd be curious to see, but I don't think we're ever going to see the end of ICE engines. I mean, for the foreseeable future, there's something very sexy still about that. Fine, there's something very sexy about EV, but at the same time, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Lucas, too, if I could jump in for a sec. We talked about this before. So, Lucas has a place in the Philippines, right? So he Canadian commutes back and forth, but he's got a place in the Philippines. We were talking about EV in that second, third world level country. Talk us through that, Lucas, on your end. That's firsthand experience, right?
Well, exactly. And just like what, Joe had said, I lived in the Middle East for a long period of time. I've lived now in Southeast Asia for a long period of time. And the difference, like Joe has just exactly said, the infrastructure, just if you had an electric vehicle here, I mean, you could go nowhere. I mean, it's not going to be here for a very, very long time or be sustainable here. Or, I mean, unless you live smack dab, perhaps in the capital city of Manila. But I mean, outside of that, you couldn't go anywhere. So like Joe mentioned, with the infrastructure, it's.
So if you get an EV, if you go buy an EV,
it's a one-way ticket somewhere.
You only got one tank.
yeah, I've got one tank, so I better pick where I'm going because I'm not coming back. Yeah, as long as they're disposable EVs. If they start making those things, I just leave it wherever I'm going.
You got one tank, brother. You got one
I'll
tank.
buy a new one to come back.
You better choose wisely where you go.
Exactly.
You're the most badass man for one date, brother.
Yeah, exactly. That could be a thing. Actually, we should look into disposable vehicles. You just take them on a one-way trip. You dispose them. You leave them at the supermarket. You grab a new one to come back home with, and
that should be good for sustainability.
Yeah. The environmental people love this concept. Yeah,
it'll just all pile up. It just it'll be a mess.
Exactly.
But when we look ahead, Joe, like we look at hydrogen. There was a push for hydrogen, of course, out in California. I think they've got like 60 different hydrogen fueling stations. I think I don't know. I mean, I agree. I think we've skipped. I think as an industry, we've skipped the hybrid model. But is hydrogen that? Does that have your attention? Hydrogen, or is that like a 20-year play?
It's got my interest. I'll say that. It's
Yeah.
definitely got my interest. But if we're putting a timeline together, I think that's even, in my opinion, from just what I know, which probably
Yeah,
not a
sure.
ton, but from my own personal research, I think that's probably even longer out than EV, just based on the focus of EV. I think if we
Totally.
shuffle the deck and
That's
we
fair.
prioritize a little differently, I think hydrogen might be a quicker route over EV. But again, it's got to be the priorities. It's got to be what's driving a lot of these desires, right, within the government channel, especially, right. They're going to drive what they want, and if hydrogen becomes the new priority, I think maybe we could latch onto that a little bit quicker. But the way it's structured right now, I think EV is the focus, and it's just going to kind of keep getting pushed to the back burner. But it's got my interest, that's for sure. Very interested in it. Try to stay up to date on that, and kind of follow the development there. But I definitely think it's an opportunity, and all of it's an opportunity. And that's what I say. I'm not discriminating against any particular powertrain, but it's you got to go about it in a certain way, right? And the dollars, right? The bang for the buck's got to be there as well, right? I mean, you have people comparing, a fuel cost per gallon as opposed to, the kilowatts here, and how much they're driving, how much they're stopping, the time investment, right? If I want to travel somewhere, I'm going to have to factor in, is it 20 minutes, 30, 50 minutes, depending on the charge. Like that's a difference in between the platforms, right? So that's an element that you have to consider.
And I have a good friend of mine. His family's in the dealership business. He's in the dealership business. He owns a Toyota dealership. And we were having a discussion literally like 2 weeks ago. And I was talking to him about this because, Lucas and I, we talk about this a lot and different, whatever. And I asked him about how, EV, how his dealership is taken to it. Are those things just flying off this dealership? He said he had 3 cars on his lot that were the oldest cars on his lot by a long shot. All 3 were EV. He said, I'm really struggling to sell them. Wow. And so I said, well, let's peel back the onion a little bit here and understand why, right? He started to get into, how Toyota's making these vehicles and what that output looks like. He said, from a manufacturing perspective, we can manufacture 100 hybrid vehicles to 3 EVs.
Wow.
I was blown away on that. And again, he's more plugged in with that side of the business with, Toyota in that regard. But I was taken back by that because I did not see that coming at all. And so obviously there is data, there is insights that he's gaining as a franchise dealership, right? Along with his family's other ownership stake in dealerships. And I just thought I was really taken back by that, because I think when you look at efficiency, you look at effectiveness, you look at the things that we look at, I think we've kind of we've stepped over one stepping stone, I think, today, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I just thought that was
let's speak on that. Like, that's the first time I'm hearing that. But if based on hearing that and reading and seeing what's going on in the market with the OE manufacturers, it makes sense. Like, a lot of their EV plants are shifting in, they're reducing the EV and they're talking about putting more hybrid production in. So that would make more sense, right? I mean, you have these that overhead and that SG&A has got to be ridiculous, right? So for them to pivot, because they put a lot, they gambled a lot on that, and they put a lot of emphasis on that. And now you're seeing them transition and saying, oh, we're going to slow this down, and we're going to kind of, refit this particular facility that was producing strictly EVs to more of a hybrid ICE base. And maybe there's some truth to that based on, that mention that you had, which is shocking, right? Is absolutely shocking, but kind of makes sense based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, I was shocked. Yep. I really was. I was shocked. And, I think that there's been a massive investment in that piece of it. So we'll see where it nets out, but it's certainly an interesting piece to continue to follow, I think.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And Joe, tell us a little bit about Dorman, while we're kind of talking around this subject, but kind of fill us in with what you're doing with Dorman.
Yeah, absolutely, Dorman. So, I get questioned like, why Dorman? And immediately I'm like, why not Dorman, right? But
Yeah,
jokes
totally, man.
aside, I mean, Dorman's just built different. I mean, we just go about it differently, right? We're not just your kind of cookie cutter, parts manufacturer and supplier, right? I mean, the team looks at every part as an opportunity, right? An opportunity for innovation, opportunity to improve it. And at the end of the day, I like to categorize us as a solutions provider, right? We look through that lens and say, how can we make a better product for the end user and the consumer? And is that saving time? Is that saving money? Is it a mixture of the two, right? I mean, so we look at everything, in regards to having the opportunity, right? So we have what we call OE fix. We look at the original part and we say, can we fix this? If we can, we'll coin it with the OE fix, exclusive to the aftermarket. That's something that we add value to, right? We're adding value to the marketplace to keep those vehicle owners on the road longer. Now, I'd be remiss if I said every single one's a unicorn, because that's just not the case, right? I mean, anybody that is in the industry, GM trucks, you better have it, or you can't even consider yourself a supplier. So not everything has that. But if there's an opportunity, to upgrade the material, right? Because maybe the
Yeah.
original equipment was inferior, plastic to metal, for example, or just different failure points. I know my team, specifically, we have an intake that came from the OE as a 7-piece, right? There was literally 7 ultrasonic welds throughout this plastic intake. I mean, if you were put together with 7 pieces, you'd be leaking too pretty quickly. So we looked at that, and our team of engineers was like, we don't need to do that. It's a 2-piece, right? We could do this and manage this in a 2-piece, and it seems simple, but the longevity of that part that we just created for that vehicle owner is substantial, right? So we're looking at that. We also look to, I mean, a lot of these parts that the dealers are selling is a complete huge assembly. When we look at it, right, and we realize it's like this little part right here is your failure point, and you could, replace this or repair this separately. Why are we going to sell you a whole unit at $800? I could sell you a part for, $112 and get you back on the road. So we're looking at that, right? So for Dorman, I truly believe it's the difference in how we go about it, right? Very innovative thinking, engineering excellence, and we're looking at this and how can we make things better? How can we drive that improvement? So I'm fortunate, to work there. I'm happy, and the people, we have at Dorman, just have the desire to win. Very competitive of nature, and it's just a good place to work and good place to really drive product and innovation.
I've always said, OE is OE, right? Because some people are like, yeah, OE, right? But if you have quality aftermarket manufacturers and you look at that piece of it, they have the ability to look back. When you have the ability to look back and connect the dots, or connect the failure dots or the failure points, correct them and move forward, there's a massive advantage there, right? Imagine in your life if you could look back 10 years and then correct it for the next 10 years. And I
Right.
mean, right, and we talked a lot, even reman, and we talked a lot about different type of things, rebuilt versus reman, but the aftermarket piece. I've always thought very highly of Dorman, and I think you guys do. You guys, you push that into the marketplace, the passion, the industry knowledge, the will to win, the will to be very, very good, the will to, decrease costs for the consumers and increase quality, right? The 7-piece assembly versus the 2. That's a prime example of
Right.
innovation in our market. I think it's incredibly exciting to see that. Now, remind me with Dorman, do you guys look at do you guys specifically are looking at North America, or you guys are looking at the global operations on that side of the manufacturing piece?
As far as
Like, are
where,
you guys in other markets? Are you guys where's your primary market you're driving? Is it North America, or do you guys have
yeah,
divisions around the globe?
no, right now it's primarily North America, right? So North America is our market.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. So no, like I said, and you kind of sum that up as well. It's just really kind of driving that, and that's what sets us apart. At the end of the day, we want that quality out there too, because that's important. I mean, you have a lot of parts suppliers. That what I call is left hand to right hand type of deal,
Yep.
right? They get it manufactured, they throw their label on it, and they're shipping this thing. And we talk about price all the time when it comes to that. And it's like, well, depends on what you want coming out of the box, right? So it's different. And I truly believe in what we're doing at Dorman, and I speak very highly. And there's a lot of passion going on within those four walls for sure.
That's awesome. Well, Joe, as we wind down and we're close up on time, we appreciate you coming on. It's really been awesome to just dive into Yang right to repair, what Dorman's got going. Where do we think ICV hydrogen is all going to basically net out? Before we close this down, call to actions, man. You want to have the floor here for Yang? Go for it. And where should people be going? What should they be doing? What date should they be penciling down, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So, everything can be referenced and found on, autocare.org, under the Yang community there. But, just some dates to remember. Like I said, you see the banner there, May 5th and 6th, Yang Conference at Connect in Chicago. Huge. Take advantage of the $150 discount, which ends on the 30th. So that's very important. We have a busy, March to May, right? So April 1st, Yang Council applications open. Don't be a fool and make sure you apply if you want to get more involved. People ask me all the time, how do I get more involved? This is it, right? It's time to start getting involved, right? What can you do for Yang? What can Yang do for you? It's a two-way street, right? So if you're interested, look for that application, open it up April 1st. April 11th, we have a YPS scheduled, and that's leading across generations. So it's a Yang professional series. It's a fantastic way to get some insights, some education aspects. It's live, so it's not recorded. So you don't want to miss it, right? So make sure you check that out. You get registered for that. Again, that's April 11th. April 16th, applications are going to open for the Leadership 2.0 scholarship. And that's through Northwood. That's fantastic. I was, class of 2023. My group won. Shout out to Master Tex. I'll just put that out there. But no, that was a fantastic experience. You're talking about networking. You're talking about connections, development, and learning. I mean, that is packed in to that certificate program. So definitely, throw your hat in the ring there. That will, like I said, help offset costs and make it to be a little bit more easier to get there, right, for your company. So that's April 16th. And, again, I can't stress enough, May 5th, May 6th, Yang Conference, at Connect in Chicago. Absolutely huge. Definitely, register today, take advantage of that discount, and look forward to, seeing you guys there for sure. And, right to repair. Can't say it enough, right? Scan that QR code, support the industry, support the movement, support Yang while you're at it. It's much appreciated. And yeah, that's my push. That's my action items right there. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. Lucas,
Perfect.
anything else?
No, that's great. I mean, that was highly informative, Joe. I mean, the fact, it's so great that you're telling people about Yang, because I think people are generally aware, but like myself, for example, I did, register and joined Yang earlier this year. Or was it late last year, Gideon? Now, unfortunately, I'll be kicked out of Yang this November. Because I will no longer be under 40, so Gideon, you and I had the conversation before. If there's any awards that you and I need to win from Yang before we're 40 this year, if you can put a little rush on those,
we gotta get them. We gotta get them.
Yeah. So if you could just rack a few up, that would be great. Yeah. Because Gideon, how much longer do you have? I
got a year and a half, man. I got a year and a half, then I'm gonna go. Probably.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. So I got a year and a half.
Okay, don't worry about Gideon's awards yet till next year. Yeah, don't make that a priority. No, that's great. No, it's so awesome. Great that you're explaining that to people, because again, one point that I just want to reiterate, Gideon and I talk so much on here how important those personal connections are, in this industry, in any industry. Although Gideon and I are very focused on the technology side, it's great that people actually still get together, they still talk face to face, that there's still that push, and there's areas for them to do it like Yang. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. And, for what it's worth, feel free to reach out, right? Active on LinkedIn, connect, follow, send me a message. Happy to connect, and I can support any way, any way possible. I'm available. Like I said, I want to make myself accessible and support however I can. And I definitely appreciate this opportunity. This was great. This is fantastic. Catching up with you guys, talking shop. It's awesome and very informative, very, very fun experience.
Folks, this is the Auto Trends Podcast. Joe DeLorme, we appreciate your time. Yang Council member, Auto Care Association committee member, director of product out at Dorman Products, doing a lot of things that are awesome in our industry. We appreciate it, guys. Tune in. We will see you next time. We are the Auto Trends Podcast.